This video is brought to you by Dr. Kristen R. Bromley's Guitar Method Book Series and Online Music Academy.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kristen Bromley. Welcome to my online academy. It's so great to have you joining me here in these online lessons. It's a Theory Thursday. I love theory, don't you? Last week, we looked at the modes of the major scale. This week, we're going to look at how chords come out of the modes of the major scale. If you don't know the modes of the major scale, then you're going to want to see the lesson from last week if you haven't seen that one before. So I'm just going to keep going right here as if you have seen the last lesson. We looked at the 7 modes of the major scale. We got Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. Each of those create a scale or a mode that has a different tonality, and we've seen that. The major scale is the same as Ionian, so it's just got that major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh. It's got those steps to it. But the Dorian, by comparison to the major scale, has a flatted third and a flatted seventh. Phrygian has a flatted second, third, sixth, and seventh. All those are flatted. The Lydian mode has a sharp 4. The Mixolydian has a flat 7, Aeolian has a flat 3, flat 6, flat 7, and Locrian has flat 2, flat 3, flat 5, flat 6, and flat 7. So those are those modes. And we're dealing with C major here. That's going to be our key. We could deal with one of the others, but they have sharps and flats. It's just easier to not see the sharps and flats and just sort of see things in relation to the key of C major as we're working through this. So we've got our major scale, and we know that Dorian comes off step 2 of that scale, so we're looking at D to D in the case of the key of C major. Phrygian E to E, Lydian F to F, Mixolydian G to G, Aeolian A to A, and Locrian B to B. So where do our chords come from? Well, so far with these Theory Thursday lessons, we've looked at how major chords and minor chords are created sort of intervallically. So our major chords have the root or the starting pitch, the pitch that the chord is named for, and we have above that root, we have the major third for a major chord, and then we also have a perfect fifth. When we make a minor chord, we know that we alternatively have the root, the minor third, and then the perfect fifth. So all the chords, though, that are created can also be looked at in relation to how they overlap with or come out of an actual scale or a mode, and that's what we're looking at here. So our major chord overlaps with the Ionian mode or the major scale. We take the first, third, and fifth steps of that scale and we get a chord, and in this case it would be a C major. So C, D, E, F, G. When we take root 3, 5, we get that C major chord. Now, in classical music theory, we use capital letter Roman numerals for major chords, and then when they're minor, we use lowercase. But when we're doing popular music theory and jazz music theory, which is really the way I'm approaching this because we do way more of that on guitar, we actually just use all capital letter Roman numerals to represent the chord in place of like the root note, and then we place something next to it that would be like the chord symbol. So for a minor chord, we'll see a lowercase m or a minus sign. And so that's what I have up here on the board. So I have an uppercase letter, Roman numeral letter 1, meaning that this is going to be the C major chord in this key, which is the key of C, is going to be the 1 chord. So we're dealing with function over here. So we've got a C major chord, and I can, of course, play any C major voicing for that, and we have that as the 1 chord. It's coming off step 1 of the key of C major. So then off step 2, where we have our Dorian mode, we take the first, third, and fifth steps of the Dorian mode. We end up with a minor chord because we have a flatted third as part of that chord. We have the root and the perfect fifth, but we have a flatted third, and so we're going to have D minor is our 2 chord. It's going to function as the 2 chords. So C major is 1, D minor is 2. Simple as that. Now when we move on to Phrygian, the Phrygian mode, which comes off step 3, we're going to get our 3 chord, or the chord that functions as the 3 chord of the key. This one has E, G, and B, so we take that first, third, and fifth of the Phrygian mode, which also has a flatted third. So we have the root, the minor third, or the flatted third, and then the perfect fifth. So we're going to have E minor is our 3 chord in the key of C major. So E minor there. When we come off Lydian, we have FAC, steps 1, 3, and 5 of that Lydian mode. And we don't have any alterations there compared to the major scale because sharp 4 is all we have. So we actually just get F major chord right off step 4. So far, our 1 chord C is major, 2 chord D minor, 3 chord E minor, 4 chord is F major. Our 5 chord has the G, B, and D. It's also major. The only alteration we have with this one is the flatted 7th, and we haven't talked about 7th chords yet on Theory Thursdays, though we're going to get into them at some point here. But I want to mention it here, and I've got the dots around the F, because if we go 1, 3, 5, and up to the 7th, we get a flatted 7th. And that gives us a dominant 7th chord, which we'll get into much more on Theory Thursdays. But it's important to point this one out, because this unique sound of that major chord with the flatted 7th functions as our 5-7 chord. So we can have a 5 chord that's just major or the 5-7 chord. And all the time we're playing music and we have like C, F, and G7. That's our 5-7 chord. It really defines the key. Because that tension in that flatted 7th wants to resolve back to our 1 chord, or our home chord, which is known as the tonic, actually. And we're going to get into that more in the next lesson when we start looking at chord progressions more. But off that Mixolydian mode, we can have just the root 3-5 and have a major chord there. Or we alternatively often have root 3-5-7. It's probably the most common 7th chord that we run into with popular music and folk music, and even in jazz music we see that one a lot. But in jazz music we get lots of 7th chords. That's sort of our main basis rather than our triad based ones. So I have 5-7 over there, and we're going to see that a lot as we look at chord progressions. Off the 6th step in the Aeolian mode, root 3-5, we have the flatted 3rd again. So we have a minor chord is our 6th chord. Our 6th chord is a minor chord, so A minor. Then when we get to the 7th mode here, we go root 3-5, and then we actually have a flatted 3rd and a flatted 5th. We haven't talked about this kind of chord yet, but that creates a diminished chord. A diminished chord has a flatted 3rd and flatted 5th, or a minor 3rd and a diminished 5th interval. And it has a little circle there which tells us that it is diminished. Now we're going to get into diminished chords more later. We don't see them as often in pop music, but we do see them sometimes. So I've got that one there. Sometimes we do run into the diminished chord. So our 1 chord in the key of C major is C. And then we got D minor is our 2 chord, E minor is our 3 chord, F is our 4 chord, G or G7 is our 5 chord or our 5-7 chord, A minor is our 6 chord, and then we would have B diminished as our 7th chord, our 7th chord, or 7th chord. So that's how that happens. It just comes out right on out of those scales. There's an overlapping mode. When we get into improvisation, I say meaning we don't really do that so much on Theory Thursdays, but on the jazz lessons, and there'll be other lessons that get a lot into the application of using theory to improvise, for example, then we're going to be seeing where we would use these modes. We could play over any of these types of chords using these modes. That's another relationship. But just in understanding chord progressions, it's great to see how, they just come right out of the steps, coming out of the 1st, 3rd, and 5th steps of these scales, which is pretty cool. So on the next Theory Thursday lesson, we're going to look at some chord progressions, and we're going to see how all of this relates and how these chords work together, and the functional names. We'll learn the functional names of each of these chords. It's going to be awesome. Keep having fun with the guitar. We got jazz lessons on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, Technique Tuesdays, Theory Thursdays. On Saturdays, we have strumming lessons, part of a series coming out right now. So lots of great things. Keep having fun with that guitar. Take care, and we'll see you again. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. For more in-depth lessons and to progress through a free guitar course, check out my Guitar 101 series on YouTube and my guitar method books, which all come with access to hours of in-depth video lessons. You can find more information about me and my products at KristenBromley.com.